past and alright, Jack. Gotta get back to the past and alright, Jack.
Oh yeah. I'm your basic average girl, and I'm here to save the world. You can't stop me 'cause I'm impossible.
But I believe Aang can save the world.
Remember action cartoons? Cartoons that focus on entertaining you through their bombastic action sequences with animation styles that probably looking at it now triggers your nostalgia like we're in the Winter Soldier program. Cartoons that were advertised for their action ended up becoming loved because of their storytelling. Stories that were just there to give the action meaning ended up becoming stories with heavy drama that taught us meaningful lessons and has stuck with us years later. Shows like The Last Airbender, Batman the Animated Series, Ben 10, Kim Possible, Samurai Jack, and so many more action cartoons that helped define a generation have seemingly become non-existent. Action cartoons were a main genre of television for younger audiences, next to the teen sitcoms and comedy cartoons. But as of late, we've seen less and less action cartoons be made, unless they're geared towards more mature audiences with shows like Invincible, Blue Eye Samurai, and Arcane, or just shows under large companies like DC or Marvel. So what exactly happened to action cartoons? But more importantly, what made them so good and just nostalgic that we still talk about them to this day? Well, that's exactly what I'm here to find out. I'm here to put on my things were better back in my day cap and talk about the lost art of action cartoons. Now, I've been naming a lot of shows from the 2000s because that simply was my era of shows. But action cartoons have existed long before then. You got the old head classics like He-Man, Transformers, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, that old ass Voltron show, and a few others that were the first to capture the attention of younger audiences with their inclusion of action. And no offense to any of the old heads and unks watching, as these shows do have their cultural importance and significance, and honestly some of them still hold up. But action cartoons didn't really start hitting until the 90s rolled around. A lot of action cartoons prior to the 90s all had this same aesthetic and vibe, whereas the 90s had much more variety in their shows. But for every X-Men the Animated Series, you got a Powerpuff Girls or a Gargoyles, and for my real niggas, you got SWAT Cats. I watched a lot of SWAT Cats thanks to Boomerang's action blocks they held at night. And like, man, bro, this show was like the definition of raw as fuck. Like, how was I not supposed to be into a show with two cool looking anthropomorphic cats who pilot a jet and fight monsters? Like, this show was just oozing with so much style. There was also that cat chick they had who I thought was a baddie. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't gonna lie. I also can't ignore though the energetic and catchy theme song this show had. SWAT Cats literally has the word radical in its title, and it's very on brand for not only this show but others from this era. So many action cartoons from the 90s were focused on being badass in its presentation. Shows like SWAT Cats were badass due to its art style and edgy aesthetic, and a show like Gargoyles was badass due to it being dark and violent on top of its focus on storytelling. The rise of action cartoons having story arcs and heavier focus on the stories they told started around this time in the 90s, and it's why the 2000s and onwards saw an influx of these types of shows. However, there was one show in particular that is most responsible for not only influencing its present shows, but also the future of action cartoons, and it was one revolved around a certain superhero.
I am vengeance. I am the night. I am Batman.
Batman the Animated Series was groundbreaking for the animation landscape. The show has been called the best Batman adaptation, the best DC show ever, the best superhero show ever, and one of the best animated shows of all time. Batman the Animated Series was so successful because it was unlike anything else at the time. It was the first show to have such a dark vibe to it and emphasize the idea of storytelling. While it didn't have this overarching story or anything, what it did do was take each story seriously. It's how episodes like Heart of Ice, the episode that turned Mr. Freeze into the tragic character that he's seen as today, went on to win an Emmy Award, because not only was it uncommon for shows to be like this back then, the show was also damn good. This show's take on Batman and the excellent voice acting from Kevin Conroy is one that people still love to this day. They love it so much that they want the newer adaptation to take inspiration from this. The show also had its distinct style compared to other shows at the time. The art style shined in the small and big moments. Gotham, Batman and his rogues gallery, and the action all had so much life put into them. The episode featuring Clayface and how his body is animated is still such an impressive piece of animation to this day. Batman the Animated Series got people invested, not just with the action or by having Batman be the headliner, but by taking pride in the stories told. And this would not only continue in the DCAU, a universe that Batman the Animated Series helped start, which features other animated shows like Batman Beyond, a futuristic take on Batman with somehow even more amounts of sauce thanks to this cool ass dude named Terry McGinnis and its cyberpunk aesthetic. But the show would also go on to influence a lot of other shows, especially when you look at the 2000s. With the success of so many action cartoons in the 90s, it was a no-brainer that they became even more prevalent in the 2000s. The 2000s was when action cartoons were really in their prime though. Every channel you came across had 2 or more action cartoons for you to watch. With so many of them being made, it became important that the shows varied a lot more. Action cartoons in the 2000s is where you'll see a lot of different looking art styles and ideas. You got the bouncy and animated inspired look for shows like Totally Spies, which was a show that I was indeed seated for like I was one of the girls. However, looking back on it though, that show was like high-key also weird shit.
There's no way, there's no way. Say you swear to God. Say you swear to God. Put that on Allah. Say, put that on Allah. Say wallahi, bro.
One of the decade's more memorable cartoons in that lane though was Teen Titans. Teen Titans became so memorable because of how it was able to transition from its lighthearted silliness to moments of seriousness. Everyone knows that Slade was a straight menace and that Robin was a King Bond disciple, but at the same time they managed to deliver this fun team of colorful characters and it got us to care about them through their chill moments of unseriousness and through the strong, heartfelt, serious moments. The show's balance of humor and story is what made the show's finale and overall cancellation so heartbreaking for many to accept. Next to those, you had your shows where the story was absolutely the driving force. The goal was to deliver well thought out plots and themes. Shows like Justice League and, most famously, Avatar: The Last Airbender. The Last Airbender, similar to Batman the Animated Series, is well regarded as one of the best animated shows, period. It's a show that even today still has a large and passionate fan base around it. Avatar: The Last Airbender had it all. Fantastic world building, themes about honor, friendship, war, and trauma, all while letting us follow characters like Zuko, Katara, Toph, and my goat specifically, Aang and Zuko, who all have many layers of death. Zuko especially with his iconic story of redemption that speaks to me still to this day, my boy. Everything else in the show had like the beautiful animation and well-placed moments of humor.
How am I gonna find him, Uncle? He is clearly a master of evasive maneuvering.
You have no idea where you're going, do you?
Well, I know it's near water.
We're all just the icing on the cake.
Perfection and power are overrated. I think you are very wise to choose happiness and love.
Then you had your shows that fell in between. Shows that were just there to be the coolest thing you ever seen in case you needed that dopamine rush. Shows like Ben 10, for example. Ben 10 didn't feature a complex overarching story until Alien Force rolled around. Instead, the classic series was just an episodic show with some strong story moments. But honestly, you're really just there to see Ben turn into these dope ass aliens and beat the shit out of somebody. And similar to the 90s with all their superhero animated shows, the 2000s had their fair share as well. I mentioned Teen Titans and Justice League already, but you also had the Batman, X-Men Evolution, Wolverine and the X-Men, the beloved and still yearned for Spectacular Spider-Man. Oh my god, please give us Spectacular Spider-Man again. And the Hood classic, Iron Man Armored Adventures. And of course you had some on the sides too, like Legion of Superheroes and that Fantastic Four cartoon that like nobody remembers. The 2000s also had a lot of weird yet bomb-ass shows that were never as popular, like Super Robot Monkey Team Hyperforce Go, a show about a young boy becoming a superhero through the help of 5 robot monkeys. And of course they pilot a giant fucking robot. You also can't forget about Secret Saturdays, Shaolin Showdown, or even El Tigre. That was this really fun show with the main character coming from a family full of both villains and superheroes. Even fucking Jackie Chan had an action cartoon called Jackie Chan Adventures that was heat. Do not sleep on Jackie Chan Adventures, bro. That shit was heat. You also had Code Lyoko, which I haven't seen myself, but I know mentioning it may make some of you happy. The 2000s are such a nostalgic time for many of us growing up through it. And the animated shows are a big part of why. Unfortunately though, this is the best as it ever got, because while the 2010s had their fair share of action shows, the genre would soon start to reach its end in many ways. The quality of action cartoons were still high as the 2010s rolled around. You had shows like the heavily overlooked Generator Rex that, like shows before it, focused on crafting a strong narrative on top of its bombastic action by fully utilizing Rex's unique power set and the concept of Evos. However, a lot of 2010s cartoons would follow a bad trend, and by that I mean that so many shows in this era suffer from cancellation and poor management by the network. Shows like Randy Cunningham, Ninth Grade Ninja, Slug Terra, Symbiotic Titan, Young Justice, Star Wars, The Clone Wars, and others were canceled or solely sent to die, either due to ratings, toy sales, or other arbitrary reasons. The worst part about this, of course, was that a good majority of these shows were all really good. You can tell that they all had a lot of care put into them. It was heartbreaking to see a show like Motor City be canceled, because you'd think a show bursting with this much style in every single frame would have gotten better treatment from the network. Instead, it got like no real marketing and was sent to Disney XD to die. Another visually different action cartoon in Hero 108 that was honestly like pretty fucking weird, but it was fun as hell to watch, ended up being canceled for some reason. Green Lantern the Animated Series is a highly praised DC action show, and after I watched it for the first time last year, I honestly agree, and I think it's really one of their best works. But it ended up going on a shorter run than Linsanity did. Even the shows that were seemingly successful ended up experiencing their own downfalls. Ben 10 Omniverse, one of the most detailed action cartoons on Cartoon Network at the time, had its episodes aired at 6 AM later into its lifespan, making it hard for anyone to catch any new episodes. Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was the go-to adaptation for the Avengers at the time, before the MCU came around and ended up getting the show canceled so they could make one more reminiscent of the MCU. And The Legend of Korra was doing her thing up until Nick sent her to Purgatory, having the rest of her series be only available to watch on their website. Even though action cartoons were still maintaining their quality, the writing was just on the wall for them. While low toy sales and low ratings were getting shows canceled left and right, it was instead the rise of a new style of cartoon that would finally put the nail in the coffin. As action cartoons started to fall off in the 2010s, short-form comedic comedy cartoons with either none or little moments of action and plot started to rise. Audiences started to become more fond of shows like Regular Show, Adventure Time, Gumball, and Gravity Falls. While these shows started to become the norm, you still got a few action cartoons here and there, like the 2012 TMNT show, but they were no longer a must-have for the network. Cartoon Network even went as far as rebooting some of its action cartoons strictly into comedic shows, like Teen Titans Go, the Ben 10 reboot, and the Powerpuff Girls reboot. Now, I'm not here to bash on any of these reboots or any of these shows in general, as the ones I named are pretty great shows, and some of these reboots, whether you like them or not, were pretty successful. Teen Titans Go has been a massive success, with the show just reaching its 400th episode special, and the Ben 10 reboot isn't the worst thing people make it out to be. Of course, aren't the shows we grew up with, but unfortunately there just isn't a place for them anymore. The creator of My Little Pony and other notable shows said in a tweet a while back that people in the TV animation world consider non-comedic action shows to be unsuccessful because kids who want action end up going to video games. And while it may be a bit of a lame excuse, it's not a total lie. As gaming was reaching wider audiences at the time, many more people weren't watching TV, since they were getting their action fix in a more interactive form. When you take that and all the other factors into account, it makes sense as to why the genre ended up dying out over the years. Action cartoons were a product of their times. They dominated the animation industry for decades, but eventually, like everything else, things changed. So they had to adapt with the times, and sadly that meant letting go of the action cartoon genre. While action cartoons may be gone in the traditional sense, we're still fortunate enough to be getting some of them with the help of streaming services. However, I can't help but miss the old style of these shows from the good old days. Shows that were targeted for people of all ages that told a story that anyone could take something away from, or giving you dedicated moments of action, neither smaller decent amounts of comedy. The genre may be non-existent nowadays, but my love for action cartoons will forever live on. I mean, they're the reason I started this channel in the first place. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video of me rambling about action cartoons. If you did, please leave a like on the video so I can know that you want more of these types of videos where I talk about maybe some other shows. You know, I got a couple of ideas in the woodworks. I just, wouldn't know if y'all be down for them. And also consider subscribing if you're new, as I'm on the road to 20K and eventually 100K. Also, do me a favor and leave a comment down below letting me know what was your favorite action cartoon ever. But until next time, it's been Dan, the Boy Wonder, signing out. Peace.